To the Bowden Blitz ACC edition. I'm Joe Lisi, joined by former National Coach of the Year, Terry Bowden. Coach, week number 10 is on the horizon. Great top 25 games this coming weekend, but we'll take a look at the recap of week number 9. We see the updated odds entering week number 10. Georgia Tech now the team to beat in the conference, plus 185 number, followed by the Hurricanes, plus 240. Louisville, Virginia, and Duke rounded out. Give me your thoughts about where Georgia Tech stands. They're the only undefeated team in the conference. And when you look at them big picture, the team to potentially really make a move in the college football playoff. But the Miami Hurricanes still have everything in front of them entering week number 10.
Yeah, I think I still see Georgia Tech and Miami as being the top two teams in the conference that can move through the college football playoffs. Georgia Tech really probably one of their best games they had all year, and they've got Haynes King. I mean, he had an unbelievable day. I think 390 something yards of total offense, rushed for over 100. Had a great day. They dominated their football game, and they're cruising right along undefeated. I look at their schedule. I don't see anybody that's going to beat them in the conference. I don't think. Of course, they'll have Georgia at the very end. Miami also right now, they'll just got to keep on playing hard. They only gave us half a game. They were tied 7-7 this week, but they just dominated the second half. And they still have the talent and the team to go all the way, too. So everybody else is kind of Virginia, hung on, won a third game in overtime, and so everybody else, Louisville, got a big game coming up this weekend. And everybody else is just kind of hoping they can stay. Although they've only got one loss, I think everybody else has a more difficult road to get through.
What about big picture for the college football playoff, whether it be Miami and Georgia Tech squaring off in the title game? Maybe there can be an at-large team coming out like Louisville or even potentially Virginia, let's just say, depending upon if all the chips fall in their favor. Can any one of these teams potentially make a run, not just at a conference championship, but more importantly, a national championship for the ACC?
Well, I think, like I just said, I think Miami has the talent, overall talent, offensively and defensively. A veteran quarterback. You got to exclude that last game he had against Louisville, where it just all fell apart that game. He still plays a very consistent game, shows a lot of poise most of the time. So Miami still has the talent to move through the playoffs. Georgia Tech, though, is kind of having a special year. They've got that quarterback that's just the perfect leader that can lead them to victory or really against anybody, no matter who they play. As long as he's in there, and I've said this about Diego Pavia a little bit too, but I think Georgia Tech's a little better team. As long as he's there and got the ball in his hands in that last quarter, they've got a chance to line up and beat anybody, but they don't have the talent that I think Miami has. If Miami gets on a run in the postseason, and they both very well could be and probably will be in the postseason, I think Miami has the talent that could get them through a little bit further.
Coach, a team that we're not going to break down with the recaps or the look-aheads this week is Pittsburgh and Pat Narduzzi. And the reason why I bring them up is they are on a 4-game win streak. Yeah. Their new quarterback, Mason Heinsteichel, has been a great addition to that offense. They've had more chunk and explosive plays taken over for former starter Eli Holstein. They also face off against Notre Dame. They face off against Georgia Tech, and they do play Miami down the stretch. Is there the potential, because they only have one loss in the conference, can Pitt be that dark horse in the second half of the season?
Well, they would definitely be the dark horse. They're about a 1,500 odds, 15-1 odds right now to get in there. But because they're on a run, and I think Narduzzi is an outstanding coach. Their quarterback, phenomenal kind of year he's finishing up with. But they're still a dark horse. They have to find a way to win. I don't think they overall have the talent of Miami. Not sure they have the great run that Georgia Tech has had, but they're only one game off, and I think they've done an excellent job. So can they get to the conference championship? Things fall into place. They sure could because they play Miami and they play Georgia Tech, and all they got to do is line up and win the football game. I'll look forward to seeing those two games too. That's two of the tougher games that both of those teams still have to play and win. Miami still has North Carolina State in the conference, and Miami has SMU next week, along with Pitt, Virginia Tech, and Syracuse.
I want to talk about the coaching situation. We saw this past weekend another domino fall in the SEC with Brian Kelly being released by LSU after their disappointing home loss to Texas A&M, and a couple coaches that are on the list, potentially Jeff Brom, even though he's a long shot, and Brent Key. So how does that affect potentially these coaches' mindset and these teams maybe in the second half of the season, not only obviously, challenging for an ACC championship and an outside chance at a college football playoff, but to know that potentially their head coach may be moving on or maybe looking for a bigger and better deal?
Well, I think these coaches, if they're going to stay in this business and they're going to win, then their name is going to come up. Now, I don't think either of the coaches in the ACC are picked as the top 3 or 4 candidates at LSU, for example. But they're going to have to handle that, and they should. I mean, all you can do is not talk about it, make a quick statement that you're happy where you are, and let it go, and then focus on your season. But somewhere along the line, if you're going to be, it's almost like being a favorite or being the team everybody's got to knock off. You got to learn how to play from the top, and if you're a successful coach, you've got to learn how to handle that type and navigate those type of rumors and coaching carousel discussions. Because again, the coaches that are winning right now in the ACC, they're going to get looked at because these other teams, whether it be Florida or LSU, they're perceived to be better jobs, bigger pay, better chance to win a national championship. And if you want to win a national championship, you don't only have to be committed. You got to find a program that's also committed.
I do want to bring up Dabo Swinney and Clemson. They face off against Duke this week. Last time we saw Clemson square off, they lost with a backup Chris Vizina taking over for Cade Klubnik. They lost outright to SMU as a 3.5-point home favorite. They lost at 35-24. What can we expect out of Clemson second half of the regular season? I don't think anybody thought that entering week number 10 to not have the Clemson Tigers involved in the discussion, at least for an ACC championship, would be out of the realm of possibility. But here we are, and Clemson is basically just fighting for bowl contention at this point.
I think right now, Dabo Swinney is just trying to save his team, save his situation there at Clemson. Now I know he's got plenty of confidence, and he's shown he can do it. But right now, there probably isn't anything on his mind except let's salvage this program. And there is a unique similarity between his personality and the culture at Clemson. They go together. And so I think he's more concerned with getting that program turned back around. You can't get paid a whole lot more than he's getting paid. I worked with him 2 years as an analyst. You don't have facilities a whole lot better than the ones he's got. And so I think right now he's off the radar. He just needs to get his team back together. I'm anxious to see if they can end on a winning note and get back to a bowl game, get that thing turned around. Because I guarantee your name gets off the list pretty quick. He's not a hot ticket anymore. Right now, he's not a hot coach on everybody's list. And that's all a matter of what have you done for me lately.
Another coach that we'll bring up is Mike Norvell and Florida State. They're actually favorite this week over Wake Forest. Wake Forest with the upset win over previously undefeated SMU in the conference. They win at 13-12. What can we expect out of Florida State? They have quarterback concerns, obviously, but more importantly, they need a conference win desperately.
No, he's in a whole different situation. Now, I think, and I've said this before, I don't think Florida State has the finances to buy him out this particular time. They're hoping he wins the rest of the season, but he doesn't have the body of work that Dabo has. Dabo's got a couple of national championships. Norvell does not. So he's got to fight harder to salvage this season and his own career, I think, more than Dabo.
When we come back, Coach and I will recap week number 9 in the ACC. Joe Lisi and Terry Bowden coming right back. Keep it where it is. All right, back on the Bowden Blitz, we left off talking about the odds entering week number 10. The team to beat in the conference entering this weekend are the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. They're dominating at the point of attack. Their quarterback, Haynes King, had another dynamic performance this weekend against Syracuse. The team opened as a 17.5-point home favorite. The line got down to 16.5 across multiple books. It did not matter. Georgia Tech stepped up with a dominating home win. They win it, Coach, 41-16. Haynes King throws for over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, and the defense was very opportunistic, a complete effort in Atlanta this past weekend.
Yeah, it was almost a perfect storm because you had Haynes King at his best, responsible for 5 touchdowns. He also ran for 91 yards and had 5 total touchdowns. But you've got Syracuse that have not won a game since they lost their quarterback, Steve Angeli. Ricky Collins has not been able to get it done. They're 0-4, and their coach he did a great job last year and was doing a great job this year, but it just goes to show you, well, when you don't have a quarterback, at times you won't have much of a team. He's really struggling right now, but Georgia Tech, all the credit goes to them. They poured it on. Haynes King had a great day, and they coasted to a victory in that game against Syracuse.
Coach, another big matchup that we saw take place this weekend was the battle in Winston-Salem when you saw SMU and Wake Forest. You scratched your head a little bit. SMU opened as a 3.5-point road favorite. We saw money come in on Wake Forest right before kick. That line was about 2.5 in favor of the Mustangs. It was a close game entering the fourth quarter. SMU did have a 12-10 fourth quarter lead, but Wake Forest found a way. They kick a game-winning field goal and they steal it. This team is 5-2 overall, fighting for bowl contention. That was a quality win against the Mustangs on Saturday afternoon.
Oh, I guarantee it was. And they're probably as much a surprise team with their new head coach as anybody in the conference, finding a way to win. They got the ball back, and with the 12 seconds left, threw a 25-yard pass to get within field goal range, and then kicked a walk-off field goal to win the game against SMU, which I thought would be even more favored than they were at 2.5. But, it was an ugly game. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. There was 8 turnovers, 2 missed field goals, a blocked PAT, 17 punts. There was no offense hardly at all in this game. But Wake Forest, give them credit. They held on, found a way to score at the end, and won the football game with their backup, or their second quarterback they've gone to now in Purdy, who came in to take place of Ashford.
Another game we'll take a look at, Coach, took place in Chapel Hill. We had talked that Bill Belichick in North Carolina showed a little bit more consistency a couple of weeks ago. They went toe-to-toe with a very good Cal team. They fumbled right on the goal line. They lost that matchup 21-18, but covered as a 9.5-point underdog in Cal Berkeley. They were 9.5-point home dogs to Virginia and Chandler Morris. Coach, this game went to overtime. In the end, Virginia and Tony Elliott survived, but that was another gutty effort by Bill Belichick and the Tar Heels Saturday afternoon.
It really was. I saw nothing about that team that suggested to me they would get much better this year, but they have been. They've lost 2 games in goal line. They've lost the ball on the goal line going into score. They lost this game on the 2-point play first overtime where they went for 2 points. A lot of people say, well, why don't you just kick the extra point and take it to the next overtime? But a lot of times when you don't think you got quite as good as offense as the other team, the best odds are to go ahead and go for 2 and get it over with. And I think Coach Belichick, he was just trying to win the game, but they lost a second one. But I will say this, Virginia finds a way to win. That's why they're having this year that they have. They've won 3 out of their last 4 games in overtime. And when you do things like that, you're going to have a great year. And they're having a fantastic year, 7-1, still in the hunt.
Yeah, when you look at the job that Tony Elliott has done, already bowl eligible, his best season in Charlottesville. They've had to overcome a lot of adversity during his tenure there. He's gotten the playmakers, and it starts with their quarterback, Chandler Morris. Yes. I know you were very high on Chandler Morris, a dual threat coming over, by the way, at TCU in North Texas. He's elevated that team. But even defensively, Coach, they are very physical, especially in run support, and a team to keep an eye out on the rest of the way.
Well, you know what happened? I think like some other schools out there that have not had the top athletes, they did a great job with the NILs. They aren't getting the superstars, but they're getting a solid football team. They're filling in positions on defense and not just the skill positions on offense. And when you do that, you've got a chance to win these close games. And that's where an outstanding coach like Tony Elliott comes in. To win those close games, you got to make those tough calls, make those great decisions at the end. They seem to have done that.
Coach, I want to take a look at the flip side with North Carolina. They have lost 4 straight, but the last 2 have been by a total of only 4 points. I know when you took over Akron, you always said that the biggest change in elevating a losing program is to lose close. That's what North Carolina is doing right now. Back-to-back games, they were within striking distance. Is this a team now where Bill Belichick has weeded out the talent, and now we could see maybe bigger dividends in year number 2?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because that is what happens when you take over a bad program. You lose big, then you lose close, then you win close, and then you win big. The last 2 games, North Carolina has been every opportunity to win, but they're losing close. They're playing better. And I think that's the key to them turning that program around. I think we do have to accept the fact that Belichick has got to know what he's doing. The whole key is, did he really go there with the intent of putting all that time and effort in? It looks like they've got that team moving where he wants it to go. That'll be an interesting program to watch. They won't go too far this year, but that will be an interesting program to watch in the next couple of years.
Quickly, we'll take a look at the dominance by Miami. They laid 28.5 to Stanford. They dominate this ball game, win it by 35 points. Miami did everything they had to do setting up this matchup this weekend in Dallas.
Well, you know, they were shaky at halftime, 7-7 game. They were just kind of puttering along, and Stanford was doing a heck of a job, and then Miami exploded. It was 6. I think they scored 6 straight drives after that, and just about did everything they wanted to do and won the game easily, which is what they needed to do after their loss last week to Louisville. When I thought they were unbeatable during the regular season. They needed to have a very convincing win, and they did in a game they should.
When Coach and I return, we'll take a look ahead to week number 10 in the ACC. Coming right back. Back on the Bowden Blitz, Joe Lisi and Coach Bowden breaking down Week 10 in the conference. Great games on tap, Coach, and we'll talk about the big one in Dallas, SMU and Miami. Before SMU lost, Coach, this line had Miami favored by only 2.5 points. Now we saw this line open up 10.5 across multiple books. We see 11.5 creeping in after the loss to Wake Forest. I still think SMU, from a defensive perspective, Coach, could be in this matchup. This is a team that's very opportunistic. They're very good on third down defense, and their quarterback, Kevin Jennings, is very athletic. I think he can put some pressure on that Miami defense on the perimeter. But again, this could be a potential tough matchup for the Hurricanes on Saturday afternoon.
Well, I tell you what, Miami's got to do a couple things. One, Miami cannot get off to a slow start. They were down 14-0 against Louisville. They're tied 7-7 against a much weaker Stanford team. They've got to come out of the chute playing hard because the great thing about SMU, they can hit the deep ball. You know, they've got 4 players who've caught touchdown passes of over 70 yards. So they've got explosive plays. So, one, you can't let yourself stay close. Miami needs to get on the stick and go after them early. Then don't give up those big explosive plays. And then the other thing is Miami finally got that running game going, rush for 199. They need to keep that running game going strong to make sure they're not having to pass in bad situations.
Now, when you look at just Miami defensively, right,
Yeah.
we know Miami is very physical in run support. They can run sideline to sideline. From an offensive perspective, seeing how SMU struggled with a weaker defensive front in Wake Forest last week, What do you do if you're Rhett Lashley? Are you utilizing tempo offensively, more ball control? That's not SMU style, but we saw them basically get into a lower scoring game last week against Wake Forest.
I just don't know if they can afford to try to keep a low score. I think they got to try to score points. Like I said, I mentioned they have great ability to hit the big play. They're not that good on third downs. I want to say they're about 35% on third downs. They don't do that well on third downs. And what they've got to do is have big plays. And to get big plays, you got to run the ball and then go over top. And they have talent doing that. Kevin Jennings can make all those throws. And then I'd treat the game like I had to outscore Miami and not like you're going to keep them down low.
Yeah, to your point, 36% conversion rate for a third down offense. They're holding opposing offenses to right in the area of 35%. That's one of the better margins on the defensive side of the ball in all of FBS. Offensively, SMU only averaging 122 rushing yards per game. Last year, this was a better rushing attack, more consistent. They're going to need a better effort on Saturday to pull off the upset against a very physical Miami front. We'll see how it plays out, and we'll break it down a little bit later in the week. The other matchup, Coach, is Louisville on the road against Virginia Tech. We saw Virginia Tech knock off Cal in double overtime as a 4.5-point home favorite. This is a team playing with a little bit of house money.
Yeah.
They're trying to fight back to get to bowl respectability and eligibility with their interim head coach, Philip Montgomery. They're catching 11.5 right now. I think they could be live in Blacksburg Saturday afternoon.
Well, Louisville's never won in Blacksburg. They don't play a lot, but they've never won a game in Blacksburg. Now, it's not a night game, and that's a tough place to play. I think they moved it to a 3 o'clock afternoon game, but it'll be a game that I think Louisville's got one of the best running backs in the country. I've watched Isaac Brown. I don't think there's anybody in the country much better than him. They've got to utilize him in the running game. And then don't have the turnovers. They had 3 turnovers against Boston College, although they won the game. They've had a problem with turnovers, but Louisville's got a chance. They've got a better football team. And Virginia Tech, you just don't – they've got a lot more to play for than Virginia Tech. And I think they're still right in the middle of everything, and Virginia Tech's just trying to hang on with an interim coach.
I don't know if you saw the interview with Philip Montgomery, the interim head coach. He was also there at Tulsa. He's been a head coach previously. But is there any shot that Montgomery potentially could be named in this coaching search, depending upon if they win out? And a bigger name, would Brian Kelly be a fit for the Hokies?
Well, I don't know if that program would be what Brian Kelly still probably envisions himself as hitting one of the top programs in the country. He's going to have to probably renegotiate that situation in his own mind. But, if they could win out, that's a chance for a coach like Montgomery to get in there and get a shot at it. Although when you fire your coach early in the season, you're usually looking for somebody else, because if you're going to hire somebody on your staff, you really don't have to get rid of anybody too early. And so I would think they're going to look outside and try to find somebody that they can bring in and create a spark that way.
We'll see how it breaks out. Coach and I will be back later in the week breaking down all the Week 10 matchups within the ACC. For Coach Bowden, I'm Joe Lisi. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you later in the week.